Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm very honored to be here today to present SB 1344 as a simple fix to the uncertainty surrounding Wage Order 15. Recently, the California Supreme Court ruled in Mendiola versus CPS Security Solutions, which nullified the federal sleep deduction for employees that fall under Wage Order 4. The court determined that the federal sleep time deduction is not valid in this case because it is not specifically cited in the wage order itself. The ruling in Mendiola has created great uncertainty for home care agencies with employees who fall under Wage Order 15, which also does not cite the federal sleep time deduction. When the Wage Order 15 was first enacted in 2001, California had always interpreted it to grant employees a sleep time deduction. This permits both home care agencies and their aides to provide affordable 24-hour live-in care for our seniors and our other frail Californians. Seniors depend on private home care services to stay healthy in their own homes and avoid institutionalization. Their specific and unique needs require flexibility in how a home care provider can best provide care. This has been accomplished through exemptions in labor law, which keeps the cost of care affordable. SB 1344 will do just that. Specifically, this bill would authorize a private in-home care worker to be on duty for 24 or more consecutive hours as long as they enter into a written agreement. It would exclude those workers from hours worked during their 8 hours of sleep, as was the original intent of Wage Order 15. Without this fix, there could be a detrimental effect on the private home care services that our seniors desperately need. I would ask that you allow this issue to be moved forward so that the original intent of Wage Order 15 be honored and seniors can continue to live in their own homes. I appreciate your consideration of 1344. I respectfully ask for a vote and look forward to the testimony of my two witnesses.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Those in support?
Okay. Good morning, Chair, members. Braden Obrowski on behalf of CASA. We are the sponsors of the bill. Thank you for letting us speak to you this morning. This bill really is a cleanup bill to long-standing policy here in California. The recent California Supreme Court ruling in Mendiola invalidated Wage Order 4 because not on anything other than the Wage Order 4 did not specifically list the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act in the wage order. Small technicality, okay? The court ruled that not that sleep time was invalid, but that it was not listed to the State Fair Standards Act. That's it. Since the enactment of Wage Order 15 in January 2001, California has operated under the understanding that the federal sleep time deduction has applied to Wage Order 15. In fact, we have opinion letter here from the Department of Industrial Relations, Division of Labor Standards Enforcement, which reads, the division has historically allowed 8 hours to be deducted if an employee is scheduled for a 24-hour shift, as it requires to remain on the employee's premises during the work shift and in fact receives 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Furthermore, the department has also taken the position that if the employee does not get at least 5 consecutive hours of sleep during the 8-hour period, the whole 8-hour sleep period must be compensated. Okay? This has been long-standing policy in California, and all we're trying to do here is make this a standard policy. We've talked about it previously, the need to have a middle ground here for these workers. Home care workers are providing an essential benefit. They keep individuals from having to go, for example, let's say, God forbid, my mom breaks her hip. I don't need my mom going around cleaning her house, buying groceries, making the bed, all that stuff. These workers help with that so that my mom is not 1 month later going back into the hospital because she was not able to fully recover. This is a service that is not covered by health insurance, therefore you're paying for it out of pocket. And we need to have a middle ground to say, our workers, they're angels, they do God's work. It takes a special person to do this kind of work on a daily basis. They deserve to be fairly compensated for that. But at the same time, we have individuals that gravely need these services, and their livelihood depends on these services. We want these individuals in the home where they can fully recover. We don't want to send them to an institution where their life is just thrown into whatever happens with that. Right? We want these people in their home. We want them to recover. And since this is an out-of-pocket expense, we have to make it affordable for them. And so we hope that this is simply a middle ground, codifying a long-standing practice that industrial relations has said is their policy. And that's all we're looking to do here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In support.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Lucy Andrews. I'm a nurse. I'm a home care provider, and I'm a doctoral student who spends a lot of my time looking at dementia as a crisis in California. We are going to shortly see a huge crisis in care in California on two levels. And there are two facts I will share with you that reiterate that. The first is that every 66 seconds, so a little over once a minute, a person is diagnosed in America with some form of dementia. This is a huge burden to not only the person, but their family and the healthcare system. This estimated cost for this year alone for care for dementia is $236 billion. It's a huge cost. So coupled with a crisis in care, in finding good caregivers that are willing to work in patients' home to do this kind of care that Braden identified as the work of angels is truly a difficult proposition. You only have to look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics to see the top-rated job opportunity is personal care assistant. And in the next 10 years, we are looking at a deficit of over 1 million caregivers that we need. So as a care provider, I cannot find enough staff to care for the people that are getting dementia and other diseases and need home care services on a daily basis. Our care staff like to work those 24-hour care shifts. And the reason, in part, is what we've heard all morning today when we've talked about the consistency of work, the ability to plan your schedule. All of those things can be attributed to the type of care and work that we do in this 24-hour period. What happens, because we can't do this now, is that I have workers that work 8 hours. And then they work for me, and they work for the next care agency, and they work for the next one, trying to get enough work and hours, even with great pay, even with overtime, to make ends meet. So when we allow them to work in a larger capacity, it makes a difference. So imagine, if you will, being a patient that is demented, who has, instead of what we used to have, maybe 3 caregivers over a week's period, now we have 3 caregivers there in a day. And so what happens when I have someone that is alone and afraid, and they go to bed at 10 o'clock with a care provider there, they wake up at 2 and there's a different care provider, and they don't know how they got there. They don't sometimes even know who they are. So for us, we see this opportunity, this technical fix, as a win-win, a win for our patients who desperately need care, and a win for our employees that can stay with one employer and work versus work for 3 or 4 employers over the course of a week to make the same wage and work the same hours and be consistent. So we urge a support of this bill, and we appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Others in support of Senator Stone's bill, please join us.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Tracy Stevens with Governmental Advocates on behalf of the Jewish Public Affairs Committee, and we are also in support.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Sharon Niederhaus, I'm also a nurse. I'm from Salos Home Health, strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Tanner, I'm also a nurse with visiting nurse and hospice care in Santa Barbara, and we support this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner.
I'm Connie Richardson. I am a nurse and I work for a home care agency, and it's very passionate for me because I'm also a certified senior advisor who has had to deal with these clients that desperately need this continuity. And I'm also a mom who has a 34-year-old daughter who is going through cancer treatment right now, and it's a great expense for me myself. And I would just really support this bill, please.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson.
Tricia Ritchie, President and CEO with Wilshire Health and Community Services in San Luis Obispo, in support of this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Ritchie.
Jody Sherman from AAA TLC Healthcare. One thing that was left out is I represent a number of caregivers of a large home care agency in Southern California. The caregivers actually like to live in, and they find that they have a home, they have an apartment, they have a place to live. And now that we've had to let some go and only do 8-hour shifts, they're crying to me. They said, this is my apartment. I mean, I have children to support in the Philippines or in Belize or wherever they are. And it's posed a great burden on them. So they are really upset. Besides the clients who are very upset. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherman.
Hi, good morning. Elaine Flores with Medical Home Care Professionals. I'm the Administrator and Chief Operating Officer. We do provide in-home care, and we find that our seniors, I want to reiterate what the panel said, they suffer when they have multiple caregivers coming into the homes. There's greater liability, with that for the patient. We strongly support this bill.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Hoffline. I'm also a registered nurse with a company called Accredited Home Care in Southern California. And I'm also a member of CASA, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Leah Smith with A Better Solution in Home Care and Nursing, and we just want to remind you that the caregivers working the 16-hour shifts would get straight pay and overtime, so they really can make a lot of money doing these live-in shifts. We strongly support this bill. Thank you,
Ms. Smith.
Hi, Adam Hunt with Pacific Coast Home Care, and I believe this is definitely a win-win for both the client and the employee in support of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Good morning. I'm Scott Stanley. I'm the owner of Caring Hands Caregivers out of Cupertino, California. I like Senator Mitchell's soapbox comments about, these are complex problems that we're all looking at and we're trying to solve. And a lot of it comes with not right or wrong, but there's common sense solutions. And, speaking from our caregivers, we have caregivers that in the Bay Area, they need to move out to the Central Valley. They need to move out a little bit further, and they travel long distances. So we can't offer the 24-hour live-in care. It becomes much more difficult from them logistically to get to work or to pay for the gas to go back and forth to work. So these are valuable shifts to many of our caregivers. So we ask that you take this into account and help us find that balance that works for our seniors, our caregivers, and the businesses that support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley.
Hello, my name is Craig Falk, and I'm from Roseville, California. And I was here last week when SB 1035 was being discussed, and Senator Leno, you asked about whether a private citizen could enter into agreement with a private caregiver to make arrangements to make the care affordable. And I nodded my head and said, no, they can't. They have to abide by the same laws that we do. And the attorney that was sitting here said, well, actually, you can deduct meals and lodging. And I had to agree, that is true. We can deduct meals and lodging, private citizen can do so. But the private citizen nor us can deduct sleep time. So I wanted to make that really clear because the sleep time is probably about 10 times more important as an issue than the meals and lodging.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falk.
Hi, my name is Ken Ehrman. I'm a nurse, and I'm CEO for RX Home Care Services here in Sacramento region. And this is, again, just nailing down what has been the ongoing standard. It's correcting an inadvertent action of a court ruling. It's basically setting the standard that's always been the case. And we really ask for your support because this is what makes caregiving affordable, and it makes it also a lot better for the caregivers so that they can be there for the evening and the morning and not have to drive back and forth, and they can make better wages and have more hours, and it's a win for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ehrman.
Hello, my name is Alejandro Saldana. I'm the Vice President of Oxford Services in LA, and I support this bill.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Craig Nakano. I'm with Care to Stay Home, a home care service provider for over 25 years. I'd like to just say that I think that this bill The question I get when I come up here is, what does this solve? I think that this bill provides a great technical clarification that restores the access to care, and in fact helps to solve a problem that we will not only have for years to come, but actually decades to come, and that's access. It restores access to care again, combined with the recent minimum wage increases that will occur. This, if you do the calculations, which I won't get into here, this will actually be, even with the restoration of this this provision for sleep time, it will still provide a living wage for individuals that are working 5 days a week. So I'd like to just say that I strongly support this bill because, again, this is going to solve or help us solve in one way access to care, affordable care to seniors in California. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nakano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dale Glazer, Visiting Angels here in Sacramento, and we strongly support this from a variety of factors, but primarily the continuity of care that it provides for the patient and the family and the caregiver. So it's a win-win for all parties involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Glazer. Anybody else in support of Senator Stone's bill? Then we will ask the opposition to come up.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Caitlin Vega for the California Labor Federation. We are here in opposition. I want to say I do appreciate the author's intent. I think I understand what his goal is in doing this bill. I disagree, though, with the idea that this is technical cleanup. I think that the very important court decision that came down last year established that when workers are required to remain at the place of work under the control of the employer, available to respond at any point in time without any guarantee of uninterrupted sleep time, that those are compensable hours and that those workers deserve to be paid. You know, virtually every situation, those workers are giving up other things they could be doing, other places they could be. They're not going home to sleep in the same house with their families. In the case that the court ruled on, it was security guards who were required to sleep overnight at a construction site. In this case, we're talking about domestic workers, but either way, these are workers who, in many cases, are going without sleep, certainly without any guarantee of sleep, and are spending that time at the employer's location because that's where they are required to be. So that was the holding in that case. So this would be now a significant departure from that holding, applying to this one group of workers. Domestic workers, I think this committee has heard many times over the years, are a uniquely vulnerable group of workers who are often subject to many different kinds of abuses within a private home where there's very little oversight. Often these workers are immigrants and don't know where to turn when they are subject to these forms of abuses. And I raise that because the structure proposed in this bill, although again I believe to be well-intended that there would be a voluntary agreement, I think what we see in practice, the reason that the law currently permits very few of these kinds of individual agreements is because there is such a significant power imbalance at the workplace where if an employer says, sign this, it's going to make it so that you could, I can only hire you if you sign it, I can only keep you if you sign it. Workers are very willing to waive all kinds of rights to get a job or to retain a job, and we fear that workers would feel pressured to enter into these agreements, which would then result in a significant decrease to what they would be entitled to earn for working these long shifts. So we are here in opposition, and we want to make sure that you're able to hear directly from domestic workers rather than just from employers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good noon to everyone. My name is Josefina Sebastian, and I have worked as a caregiver for 13 years for many different consumers, mostly with a live-in setup. Working 24 hours a day. Today, I am still working 24 hours per day, 4 times a week. I was told by my employer that I had to remain at the home for the entire 24-hour shift. I could not leave the premises for any reason. Even after the consumer went to sleep, I could not have my family or my friends visit me during my shift because this was a work time. I was required to assist throughout my shift and usually had to get up at night to give medications, help my consumer in her trip to the bathroom, and make sure she would not fall. If she could not go back to sleep immediately, I also made her comfortable by scratching her back or giving her massage to ease her pain, especially in her legs, until she went back to sleep. During nighttime, if my consumer needs me, she rings the bell, and I am expected to rush to her side to attend to whatever she wants me to do. I usually sleep on a couch. Her room, outside her room, and the door is kept open so I can see and monitor her and ensure that she is safe and will not fall out from the bed. Because of this, I am not able to have a complete 8 hours sleep. If she is not able to sleep because of her pains, I also don't get sleep. The day after my shift, I usually don't feel well. And most of the time, I feel very lightheaded and unable to focus. I know this is not okay for my health, and it impacts my consumer. For me, this is the hardest situation because I feel I cannot provide the highest quality care that I am able to. After my 4 days of work, which is a total number of 96 hours a week, I go home tired, weak, and exhausted. My husband usually complains that I need to give up my caregiving job because it is taking my toll on my health. Because of lack of sleep, I am now suffering from high blood pressure and have to take medicines to control it and prevent from having a stroke. I oppose SB 1344 because it includes a sleep exclusion that would take away my hard-earned wages. As a live-in 24-hour caregiver, I am responsible for the health and safety of my consumer and the entire 24-hour shift, and therefore should be compensated for these hours of dedicated work. I understand that the employers say that they cannot pay overtime for 24-hour shift. We agree that 24-hour shifts are not sustainable and believe that there are solutions that meet the needs of the worker and consumer. The agency can easily switch to a 12-hour shift with 2 caregivers providing round-the-clock care to the consumer, and the agency would only have to pay the extra $15 per person for these shifts. SB 1344 unfairly strips away my dignity and rights as a caregiver, and that takes pride in providing high-quality care to my clients, my consumers. Therefore, Your Honor, I urge you not to pass it. Thank you and good day.
Thank you so much. Others in opposition?
Thank you, Mariko Yoshihara with the California Employment Lawyers Association. Respectfully oppose this bill. Our attorneys worked on the Mendiola case, which was a unanimous California Supreme Court decision. It was not a departure from the law. Wage Order 15 has never included a sleep time deduction for hours worked, so these reasons we oppose this bill.
Jessica Sender, Equal Rights Advocates, and the Stronger California Advocates Network strongly oppose.
This is Lolita Liedo from the Filipino Workers Center, and we are organizing caregivers. I would just say that SB 1344 is really not a win-win situation for caregivers. We are on the losing end. As the testimony of our caregiver says that please don't take away the highest court of California, the Supreme Court, already ruled and clarified that workers who are on their work site, not sleeping in their own bed, in their own home, is actually working because this and should be paid and compensated. One of the testimony of the supporters said that there would be a crisis because of the dementia, etc. But how would caregivers, the rate of turnover of caregivers would be so high if you do not provide them all those fair wages for the work that they are doing. There would be a lot, because caregivers would come and go because of this situation. So let us defend what the Supreme Court of California have ruled and clarified and give dignity to the care workers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim Rutledge with United Domestic Workers, AFSCME Local 3930, and we are in strong opposition of this bill.
Hello. I'm Katie with the California Domestic Workers Coalition, and we must oppose because 1344 would create a situation, condone a situation where workers are unable to leave their place of work and still not be compensated. And so we respectfully urge your opposed vote, or no vote. Thank you.
Raquel Botello de la Colectiva de Mujeres de San Francisco, y estoy en oposición a esta ley.
Mi nombre es Carlota Abad, vengo de la Colectiva de Mujeres San Francisco, estoy en oposición a esta ley.
Tiffany Warren with SEIU California. This bill undermines the protections of domestic workers, and we would urge your no vote. Thank you.
Hola, soy María Distancia y yo soy cuidadora de ancianos y no apoyo esta ley.
Blanca Vasquez with the California Domestic Workers Coalition, urging your no vote.
María Reyes, con la Alianza Nacional Trabajadoras del Hogar y con esta coalición, y no apoyo esta ley porque es muy injusta y falta de respeto.
Mi nombre es Dalet Santiago, soy miembro de Mujeres Unidas Activas y también soy cuidadora de personas discapacitadas. Es una ley injusta para nosotros y estoy en oposición.
Joshua Golko with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees in opposition.
Mike Carroll with the California Applicant Attorneys, also in opposition.
Thank you. Seeing no others, we'll go ahead and open the meeting now to comments from members. Senator Leno.
Ms. Vega, question for you. Senator Stone, I've had some experience with this, with my mother's own illness over a 10-year period with Alzheimer's there in the state of Florida, and the live-in care that my father was able to provide for her, especially as the disease progressed. It's difficult. This is a challenge for me because I know that what we're being asked to vote on is to apply in all cases, or to either support or to oppose, and that all the domestic situations within a household are not the same, and one illness is not the same from another, and the needs of one consumer is not the same as the needs of another. So it's not an easy decision for me not to be supporting the bill here today. But I did want to ask you, Ms. Vega, with regard to continuity of care, do we know how this is playing out, especially since we've passed the overtime, in terms of 12-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, and how this is impacting consumers, or is it still too early for us to know much? And if you're not able, anybody else who might be able to offer something is welcome. Sure.
Katie again with the California Domestic Workers Coalition, and what we have seen is that there is a move away from shifts that are longer than 12 hours per day. So there's been situations where there's a bringing on of an additional personal attendant. And so for the reports that we've been hearing from our members, it has resulted in greater flexibility. It's just simply the ability to be able to live their own lives, have time to be with their families. And so it's primarily been by hiring on other personal attendants.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well, Chairman Stone, I appreciate you bringing this issue forward. As you can see, it's a lot of, it's like every important issue, sometimes there's always two sides. We saw this kind of discussion last week as well on the other bill. And I see where you're trying to get to. because, you know, we're trying to cut costs, we're trying to alleviate the costs on just healthcare in general. But here in this particular case, when some of the families that are in need of such care don't have that much money themselves at times. So I could see the balance there. But some of the witnesses here that came before us, and I mean, their stories are real. Their stories are very moving in the sense that, you know, the time away that even in our profession, when we come here to Sacramento 4 days a week and we stay away from our families 4 days a week, that's hard. And these individuals have to be away from their family. Sometimes they can't have visitors. They can't enjoy that free time sometimes to kind of be with their family. So it's a really tough issue. For me, I'm having a hard time kind of supporting it, just because of the impact that it would have on these particular families. But with that, I would appreciate if you would close.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful comments, and also Senator Leto, thank you. Last year was a very challenging year for my family. My father, Lawrence, had Alzheimer's. And when he was beginning to have his Alzheimer's, we had a caregiver that came in during the day and basically tucked my dad and my stepmom into bed. And they did pretty well at night, and then he came back in the morning. As my dad got worse, it became very apparent that we needed to have a 24-hour caregiver. And the caregiver that was there for a number of years as my dad was getting progressively worse, she was going to go back to school, and we had to bring in a new caregiver. And that continuity of care was very challenging in this environment. My dad didn't like the new caregiver. She didn't do things the way the old caregiver gave. So it really was disruptive until my dad got to, know the new caregiver better. He was able to get along, but it was really important that we had the same caregiver. And this caregiver, who I think was an angel, because he looked after my father like it was his own dad. And it was really a win-win situation, because he recognized that my dad needed to have 24-hour observations, if you will, in the house in case it was an emergency. And he said, God willing, your father is going to be around for a while. I would like to move into your house. And he actually moved in, and obviously didn't have to pay rent someplace else, wasn't paying for gasoline going to and from. My parents paid for all of the food and the meals. This was not something that he was coerced to do. This was something that he agreed to do. And he got paid appropriately. Overtime, anything over 8 hours he got paid for. But it was agreed upon that the 8 hours that he would be sleeping, that he wouldn't get paid unless there was an emergency and he had to get up and take care of my dad or my stepmom, who also had some dementia as well. So I appreciate the testimony from all the labor groups, and I understand that they don't want any precedent set where workers are not going to be getting overtime. I understand that. But this bill I'm bringing forward to keep people in a society where we have a rapidly aging population, that people have gone through their retirement, and it's not uncommon like it was for me. I was supplementing every single month the care for my dad because Social Security just wasn't cutting it, and he had gone through all of his savings. And so this worked out to be a wonderful win-win situation where he had one caregiver. So I'm looking just for a very narrow carve-out that's not even required of workers. They don't have to do this. It's between the domestic worker and the patient, if you will, that if they can come to an agreement that is a win-win, where the caregiver is still getting basically 8 hours of overtime, they get free room and board in many cases, that it's embraced by both sides. It becomes a win-win situation. But saying no to this is basically putting, I think, a burden on many children, on many senior citizens that are going to have to go through their savings. And it may leave many families with no choice but to put their parents in a institutionalized setting, which we know is very expensive. But if you look at 24 hours of work and you look at paying somebody overtime, 8 hours for working, frankly, I don't think there's going to be a lot of seniors that are going to do that, or their families are going to embrace that. So this is not work that's going to be lost. It's going to be missed opportunities, I think. But I think the most important thing is this, is that dementia is not a short-term issue. It's a long-term issue that we have to deal with. We have a rapidly aging population, and it's very comforting for one that has dementia to be familiar with the same caregiver on a day-to-day basis. And if they can come up to a mutual agreement where it's beneficial for the caregiver to live there, and he's willing to say, you don't have to pay me for the hours I'm sleeping, unless I have to get up, and I have to get up and take care of you, then obviously I should be paid, then why not let that private arrangement work? Is this going to set new precedents, lawsuits that is going to force labor unions now to force their workers to work and not get overtime? That's certainly not my goal at all. My goal is to try to just take care of these very unique situations when senior citizens are running out of their funds, and to give them quality of life care with an arm's length negotiated agreement. No one's coercing anybody to have to work. Let me tell you, there's plenty of dementia out there. It's not like there's a shortage of jobs. If somebody says, well, I'm not going to hire you unless you work for 8 hours at straight time, they can say, well, you know, I'm not going to work for you. I'm going to go look for somebody else. There's plenty of work out there. So in the best interests of our senior citizens that are living longer, where we're seeing such high incidences of Alzheimer's, and trying to give them some quality of life and keep their care affordable, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair? Though I am not supporting the bill today, if Senator Stone would like a motion, I'm happy to make it for you, but it would be your choice.
Please. Thank you.
In that case, I will make the motion.
Wonderful. Thank you, Senator Leno. We have a motion on the bill. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is to pass two appropriations. Mendoza?
No.
Mendoza, no. Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Jackson? Leno?
No.
Leno, no. Mitchell?
We'll leave it open for the rest of the members to
If we
add
could
on.
request reconsideration as well. Thank you for your listening to the bill.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
You're the last author.
And that's something. Wonderful.